Hello, everybody. Brian Neubert here from GoldandBlack.com with my colleagues Alan Karpick and Brett Hull. Tom Dienhart. This is your GoldandBlack.com Saturday Simulcast, the week before Purdue football opens against Fresno State. So here we are. Thank you to the Purdue Union Club Hotel for your continued support. We appreciate it very much. So we'll just kind of get down to it. Tom, tell us what to expect this week.
It's
going to hold you to everything you say.
Yeah, I tell you what, I would not want to open against Fresno State. That's all I'm saying. I know they lost their quarterback. Jake Haener was a draft choice. I think he was picked before Aiden O'Connell went to the Saints. They lost a couple good receivers, but guys, they're pretty good up front on both sides of the ball. Two very good cornerbacks, I'm told. Good linebacker, great coach, Jeff Tedford. He's 61 years old. It's kind of funny. Ryan Walters is 37. And I was talking to somebody about their defensive coordinator, Kevin Coyle, an older guy, too, who coached in the NFL for a long time. So long story short,
Kevin Coyle, yeah.
Very good staff, man, and always, going back to Pat Hill's days, Fresno's tough, man, and boy, you have to be buttoned up. It's going to have its challenges. So we know Purdue's got its issues to deal with. So it's probably going to be hotter than heck. Noon kickoff. I think everybody's just excited to see what the offense is going to look like and what this five-man front defense is going to look like. We've talked too about the sense of urgency in September. At least that's what I've sort of labeled it. Get 4 out of 5 games at home. You got to make some hay, and you'd love to get this win because you got to go to Virginia Tech on September 9th. So, again, maybe I'm making too big of a deal out of a one game, but to me, guys, this is just a huge opener. But again, it sounds like at least I say this every year about the opener. What do you guys think?
Well, I think that you look at that. And by the way, Brian, when we get to the basketball part, we'll switch gears. I can ask you questions, but I'm a weather person. You're right. It's going to be hot next weekend, supposedly. So we'll see. You look at that schedule, and I think there's the must-have, the swing games. This to me, and who knows what? I guess the line may be 6.5, or it's what it is some places. But you're right. I think it's fraught. I just have no feel. And Tom, you've been over there every day, but no feel of what we're going to see. And I like what Ryan Walters, from an organizational standpoint, it makes some sense. Everything looks good, but until we see it, and again, this is a game that you have to think Fresno is waiting now. This is also the West Coast team playing at noon, and that doesn't seem to bode well for West Coast teams.
Better get used to it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, Fresno could be a member of the Big Ten by next week. You never know. So that's an interesting thing. But Tom, I can't think. And Brian, I know you wrote something about the '97. The anticipation is really interesting in this one, just because we don't know what we're going to see. We have an energetic coach, Purdue. We being Purdue, but we just don't know. It's just. I'm not saying it's going to be a flop. I'm just saying I don't know. But it makes for good theater, I guess. Does that make sense?
They being Purdue.
Yeah.
They. Alan, in your 78 years on Earth, you've seen a lot of Purdue coaches sort of come and go. Joe Tiller lost his opener. Jeff Brom lost his opener. Those worked out okay.
And Danny Hope won his opener, right?
No, Danny Hope lost at Oregon. No,
he beat Toledo. Remember?
That's right.
With
and he lost 5 in a row after that.
Yeah,
that's right. Good call.
Now I'm having a moment since I'm 80 years old of who was the guy that ran for 234 yards. I'm number 20.
Bolden.
Yeah, there you go. Sorry. Go ahead.
I'm just saying, is this one of those games where you don't want to put too much into it?
Yeah.
And anybody who wants to answer.
Yeah, you can. You can never make grand proclamations, especially after a season opener. So much changes. I can't tell how many times in my life I've watched some college games one Saturday thinking this team's not going to win another game.
Yeah.
Team X, and then the next weekend they turn around and they upset somebody. So, no, you don't want to. Again, your script isn't isn't ended on game one, obviously. Great chance to, I mean, that's when you're going to make your greatest improvement, I think, is after that first game. No preseason games, obviously, in college football. So, yeah, it's just a big wad of unknown for everybody. They've just never done this before. Again, you don't want to make any, like I said, positive proclamations. Oh, this team's going to be great. Or if they get beat, you don't want to start shoveling dirt on them. I think we've got plenty of examples with Purdue to really steer us away from that type of thinking. So no, but we got to come up with some hot takes, don't we, guys?
Yeah. Well, I think that's the number
hot.
one thing. Yeah. My lukewarm, this isn't a hot take, but the number one thing about me with Ryan Walters and staff, as you've talked about this, Tom, and Brian, you've written about, is how they're going to deal with adversity. And you're right. If things don't go well next Saturday, they're going to have to play 11 more games and try to have a good season. So it's going to test. That's by definition just a new coach in a new situation. We know he's a bright guy. We know he's energetic. We know that he can put defenses together. All the other stuff we'll find out. But he is going to have to deal with adversity because I will make it the hottest take of all right now, and that is Purdue is not going 12-0. That is not happening. So
I don't know, man. That's
really
hot. Stepping on our ledge there.
I know, and so my point is that he's going to have to deal with that, and like any coach will. But it's going to be interesting. I think Purdue's last 40 and under coach was Leon Burnett. Was he under 40 when he started? I think that
he may have been.
That didn't go so well. So anyway, okay, I'm done with my hot takes, Brian.
Yeah, real quick, the line is down to about 4.5 for Purdue. So yeah. I think it opened up about 6.5.
Yeah. They're talking about 87 degrees at noon tomorrow. We'll see what next week.
The California guys shouldn't be bothered by that, I wouldn't think.
No, Fresno will be good. And
if they can import some smog too, maybe they'd be even more comfortable.
Right. I think everybody wants to see Hudson Card, right? I mean, we've heard
that will be interesting.
So much about Hudson Card, and I've heard so much from so many different camps, I guess, and I guess he's the real deal, man.
We'll find out.
I mean, again, I hope he does well. He just seems like a good guy, the kind of guy that's like, if you're a Purdue fan or not, you like to see do well, just a good person. I thought it spoke volumes, too, that he was, according to Ryan Walters, the overwhelming vote getter and captain voting for a guy who'd only been on campus for, 8-9 months. And that tells you a lot, too, about a guy being embraced. He could have been, and that could be a real prickly situation, when you parachute into a place like this, you're the quarterback, you're the hot shot guy. And obviously, I always told he handled it very well. He's been embraced, obviously. He's already very much admired by his teammates, which says a lot about his personality, his physical traits too, right? We've heard about those for months now, the throwing, the ability to run the ball. I mean, people have marveled. So maybe Purdue's really got something here, guys. Maybe they really do. We'll see if that's the case. Everybody else, maybe that elevates everybody else's play like we saw so many other great quarterbacks do. So it's going to be a lot of fun to watch number one on Saturday.
Yeah. This is going to be a fun, I guess, look into modern college football because
exactly.
Going to go out there on Saturday and everything Tom just said Hudson Card has handled. It's going on everywhere in the country. It's going on at every position. And if there's ever a game where Purdue fans needed to print off their rosters, if there's still such thing as printers anymore, I've tried to keep all this stuff straight. And there's going to be guys playing in the secondary where I'm going to be poking Tom and asking, who the hell's that guy? And I'm going to be asking, who? Is that the kid from Vanderbilt or is that the kid from Penn State? Is that the kid from Auburn? Which kid from Auburn? It's just, this is college football, and week one for that reason probably means less than ever before.
Yeah.
Because there's no preseason in college football. And everybody's breaking in these new guys. And it has kind of been interesting because, some of those week one losses we mentioned before, and history has nothing to do with the present. It really doesn't. But
especially now,
it's a fun reference point because
it's fun.
When Tiller and them lost to Toledo, that was the best thing that happened to that team because the coaching staff's approach to that really buoyed them the rest of the season. When Jeff Brom and them lost to Louisville, they backed it up. They were competitive with a really good team, and that buoyed them from a confidence perspective. Big fan of the word buoy today, by the way.
Sam Bowie.
Purdue's going to be dealing with some injury here, guys. Who doesn't, right? Every team's got injuries, but the left tackle, Musa, is probably 50-50.
Yeah, that's a problem.
He's had his leg in a boot. Of course, Josh Kaltenberger, the number one center right now, may not be ready, and Hardwick's probably not going to be ready maybe until mid-season. So you may have Austin Johnson snapping. You probably will have Austin Johnson snapping against Fresno State. And Snoozy Kane's probably going to have his left wrist and hand in a big kind of a cast. We'll play with it. Prince Boyd's going to be out for a while still. He's more of a depth guy. But those are some of the main guys, I think, that Purdue will have to operate without that have been dealing with some injuries. Garrett Miller will be fine. DeMarzio Lewis will be fine. Those guys, of course, missed last year with knee injuries. They've been coming along steadily and surely here and look like they're going to be ready to go as well. So, yeah, like Brian said, a lot of new parts, especially in that secondary. Watch the secondary, the cornerback spot. Every cornerback is a newcomer, a transfer or a freshman. Now that Jamari Brown's gone. Think about that for a second. So, yeah.
Important position, too, for Purdue now. A really important position in what they want to do defensively.
Yeah, and I think Marquise Wilson's a legit guy, the Penn State kid. Markevius Brown's probably going to be your other number one cornerback. Then you probably got the JC kid, Botros Alessandro. Then maybe you may have a true freshman as your number 4 guy, a guy named Derek Rogers. Because I don't think the Stanford kid's going to be ready yet. He's dealt with a hamstring injury for months. And he's not going to be ready for the opener. So the cornerback spot, boy, just not a lot of real veteran depth there right now.
Prepare for a whole season to be in the press box, being like, "Is that the Stanford kid? Is that the JUCO kid? Is that the Ole Miss kid?"
Salim Turner Muhammad. He hasn't practiced at all since he's got here. And yeah, Markevius Brown, number 1. Just remember number 1 and number 16 is, like I said, Marquise Wilson from Penn State. They got to keep those guys healthy, I think.
All right. Mr. Dienhart, if you need to hit the road, you are welcome.
I'm going to take this opportunity to thank Tom's St. Louis Blues for many years ago.
Like that. I love that color, though. That's
signing Brendan Shanahan from the Devils, because that gave them the NHL inexplicably awarded Scott Stevens to the Devils as compensation for them signing a restricted free agent, and Scott Stevens was the impetus behind the Devils winning a couple Stanley Cups. So
they are
Tom,
still.
Thank you so much.
I am the only one here that's worked professionally in hockey, and I have no idea who you're talking about. So that's good. I know
Scott Stevens is and Brendan Shanahan.
I do. I shouldn't say that.
Scott Stevens, they're still talking about that trade in St. Louis, Brian. It was a stunner.
It wasn't a trade.
Judge. Oh, yeah, it was a judge awarded to him. That's right. The judge awarded to him his compensation. And, Scott Stevens, a Hall of Famer. And, it's crazy. Those are fun years in the early 90s for the Blues. Now, I do share
Adam Oates, Curtis Joseph, great, really fun teams. I loved Adam Oates. He was one of my favorite players to watch.
Harold Schneps.
I remember him.
I do share a birthday. I share a birthday with Brett Hall, so there you go.
There you go.
That's where the comparisons end.
Yeah. All right. But the one thing I was going to say, and Tom, I know you're going, but I think the one thing also that I'm looking at, again, and I'm the least prepared of the three of us here looking at this game, but I'm fascinated still of how that offense is going to work and how Maccabee is going to be used. That to me will be interesting. I mean, we know what he does. It's just going to be interesting. And I know, again, Tom, I know you've written about it and have an inkling of what we're going to see, but it's just going to be interesting to see. Maccabee's the 1,000-yard-ish rusher. Purdue's going to need to move the football that way. But is he going to be more of a going to be? I don't think they're
going to need to use him that much. And
that's what's going to be.
I don't think you would want to use him. I mean, I don't want to underestimate the guy. He's just not physically impressive at all.
Yeah.
Dylan Downing, Tyrone Tracy, you stand next to those guys, you go, man, I wouldn't want to try to tackle that guy. Look at Devin Mock. I mean, he's still I mean, he's just got it. I mean,
Yeah.
I just don't know. I don't think he's a workhorse back who's going to carry it 250 times a season,
Yeah.
25 times a game. They've got two other good backs, and again, Downing and Tracy. I think they're going to want to fan it out and try to use those two guys as well. So I guess I would bet against Devin getting 1,000 yards this year because I just don't think they're going to lean on him that much. But maybe I'll be wrong.
Yeah.
Well, something to keep in mind here is I don't know. I haven't been to practice. I don't know anything. I'm just the guy here talking. I don't know anything about anything. Philosophically, the air raid in whatever form's going to run it is kind of similar. And I'm saying philosophically here. I don't mean X's and O's to what Tiller did, to what Brom did, where you're throwing to set up the run. So, I think that they can put Maccabee in some situations where they don't necessarily have to give him as many carries to get him his yards. Now, you obviously have to be successful in the passing game. You have to really keep people off balance with your passing game. You have to make enough big plays with your passing game. You have to wear people down with tempo. It's got to work. Everything's got to work for the running game to really click. So I think he can. My personal thought here is that he can have maybe like a less is more type of season where he can be almost as productive as last season on 80% of the carries, something like that. But, I don't know what form of air raid we're going to see here. It comes in many forms.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting story.
Air raid based. That's what Graham Harrell says. Air raid based. So there you go.
Principles. Right. All around there. So. All right, Mr. Dienhart, get off to your thing. Thank you, and we'll
I'll see bright shiny faces again here, fellas.
We're going to be seeing a lot of each other here before long.
It's the last. We got some football this weekend too. We can watch, right?
Yeah. Week 0.
Okay.
All right.
I'm gonna take over the question.
I appreciate the random early '90s hockey talk a lot.
That's good. That's good stuff,
buddy.
I was
There's
a big
random
hockey fan
about
until I moved to Indiana, and it just was out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll see y'all, fellas.
All right. Sounds good, Tom. Thanks. So Brian, we'll switch gears a little bit in terms of a lot of it.
I was wondering how that was going to go. If he was just going to stand up and leave, or what?
It's a Zoom. Obviously you've talked and written about what we saw or didn't see, and kind of downplayed the importance of, from a team perspective, Purdue's trip to Europe. Now that they're back and Saturday is back, right? And he's still finishing up, right?
Yeah, he won't be back until the end of September.
But what do you look in this situation? I mean, kind of what do you take from if anything from that the 4 games that we saw in Europe for Purdue?
I think everything changes as soon as the big man comes back. So it's kind of a tough thing. But the fact that Purdue had to play without him, other people had to be empowered to do stuff, to carry more weight. I think there's more positive than otherwise to come from that. I think the fact that Purdue, was tested a couple times, 2 of the 4 games, there were situations where they had to pull away in close games, and they were able to do that without Saturday. I think that was pretty significant. I think from an individual perspective, any experience you can get Miles Colvin, Camden Heide, those guys is positive, and obviously they got experience. Only 3 of the 4 games, both of them, but still, the fact Purdue came out that last game really shorthanded, without Heide, without Ethan Morton, without Miles Colvin, and won that game against the best team they faced out of the 4, I thought was pretty significant. But the reality is the competition over there was not up to par relative to what Purdue's going to see in November, obviously. And Purdue was very shorthanded without Saturday. But I think by and large it was probably worthwhile. As I said many times, this was not the year you preferably would want to do this sort of thing. You prefer to do it when you have a bunch of guys who've never played. Purdue has a ton of guys who've played a ton. you just kind of had to find value wherever you could find value. I think, Purdue's winning instinct over there kind of showed up. I think Matt Painter probably found real value in having to play without Saturday. Not that he's planning on doing that during the season. Everybody's like, oh, well, what happens if Saturday gets hurt? Well, if Saturday gets hurt, you're in trouble.
Yeah. You're not
so
be, yeah,
don't plan on that. You aren't putting in a, what if we have to play without CD back?
Yeah.
CD. But no, I think it was for a less than optimal situation. I think they probably found some real positive in it. Now they just kind of hit the ground running. There won't be a team in college basketball this season with more continuity on its side than Purdue, because the personnel is largely unchanged. Now that said, some of the personnel that has changed it could be pretty impactful, but they've practiced all summer. They've played together already in one form or another, and Purdue's been pretty good the last few years at hitting the ground running. But this year they have every reason to hit the ground running. Now, you don't want to be your absolute best in November like Purdue has been the last 2 years. You prefer to kind of build up to that. So that's a long answer to a short question, but that's what I got.
Well, I mean, and I guess the thing I struggle with is the continuity is certainly, like you said, is unique. This is a team that seems to like each other. Yes, the postseason has not been its friend the last 3 years in a lot of ways, but so they got to get through that part of it. But there is a lot to be said about that whole thing about November. You can't and you're going to have some games in November. Even in October, I know it's an exhibition against Arkansas, but some intriguing type games early on is when you're Purdue and you're going to play. Probably not in Maui. We don't know that yet, but they're probably going to play that tournament somewhere, and they're going to play against Gonzaga in that situation. So, again, it's hard to say. Well, they're not going to peak in November or make an impression in November, because they probably will, because they've got a lot of guys coming back and a lot of experience and skill.
Yeah. Purdue's going to obviously have to face down its NCAA tournament demons this year. Whether or not that is something they're conscious of, I have no idea, but it's going to be the discussion point around Purdue, outside of Purdue, all season long. That's just inevitable. When you look at the common denominator between the past 3 seasons, you can tie a lot of that to maturity, and I can itemize those 3 teams, but that would be kind of pointless right now. But I think Purdue should be the most mature version of itself that it's been in many, many years.
Great.
I think they're chronologically old. I think they're experienced. I also think that they've got temperament for it. I think they were young at some really important positions last year. Positions that last year's NCAA tournament results all around them showed age and experience is important. I think Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer really take a jump this year in that perspective. I think Lance Jones obviously has played a lot of college basketball, so I think there's no drop off there from David Jenkins.
He was impressive. I was impressed by what he brought to the table just watching those games. He's going to be a contributor, I would think.
Yeah. So I think you've got 5th-year guys, you've got older guys, you've got guys who played a ton of minutes. I think that, Purdue should be pretty professional about this year. And, what I've said all summer about Purdue this year is that when people think you're one of the best teams in the country, they write about you and they talk about you. Everybody's like, oh, we just have to block that out. Why? I've never been a high-level athlete, nor will I ever be. I think my days of
Has that ship sailed?
I think my days of playing third base for the Yankees, I think they're probably over. Okay. I think I missed my chance.
You had a chance. Did you have a chance?
I think I got screwed because.
Okay. All right.
Anyway, I've never understood why. why do you have to block that out? Why can't you embrace that? Why can't you let that, kind of fuel you and make you carry yourself accordingly? That's the one thing where, Purdue hasn't always been great with the last couple of years, is playing like the team that should win, taking it to the opponent instead of letting the opponent take it to them. You look at Rutgers a couple of years ago. At Rutgers, you look at Fairleigh Dickinson last year, and my deep held theory still is that Tobin Anderson got between their ears with his little TV stunt, and put all the pressure on Purdue, and Purdue didn't handle it well. And everybody who writes that Purdue's a top 5 team and Purdue should make a Final Four this year, whatever it might be, Purdue ought to embrace that. All those guys in that locker room, again, somebody here who has never played in a Game 7. I've watched several on TV, but why not just be like, yeah, you're damn right. We're a top 5 team in the country. You're damn right. We ought to beat the out of this team. Stuff like that. That's maybe the next step. I always compare it to, remember when Duke came into Purdue a couple years ago, back with
2008 was a couple of years ago, right?
2008. That was a big game for Purdue. It was one of those pig at the luau sort of games for somebody visiting Mackey Arena, and that place was nuts. And that was a game that the Purdue community had, quote unquote, circled on its schedule forever. And Duke didn't flinch.
No,
they did not flinch. They walked in there and they punked out a younger
team.
Business. And they didn't flinch, because that is the standard Duke holds itself to. Duke is used to it. Duke carries itself like that all the time, because every game they play is an enormous game. And that's where Purdue as a program, I think, still needs to take a step here. Is they need to go into Indiana and not flinch. They need to have Xavier come to them and not flinch, stuff like that. And that's going to be the big test of Purdue's maturity this year.
Yeah. Excellent point. I think it's going to be interesting. Already all sold out, right? That was announced this week.
Is that even news? Don't they sell out their season tickets every year?
No, they've had some tickets, and I don't know what, and I honestly don't know, and I should know, I guess, of what some of those holiday games with the students are away, but I think everything's gone. So all the season tickets they wanted to sell are gone. And you're right. I'm not sure if that's absolutely new from last year, but impressive still the same. That and volleyball. I think volleyball is about in the same boat, different level, but certainly a lot of fan interest around Purdue. Football sales are huge from that standpoint too. To me, surprisingly better than I'd anticipated, and with the Syracuse game already sold out as well. So that's what's going to be. All right, I want to ask while we have you too. Obviously Saturday you will be in Brock Spack's backyard, sort of, I guess, at least in the vicinity at Normal. Are you going to Normal, or are you going to Bloomington, Illinois, to watch football on Saturday night?
I just call it Bloomington Normal.
Okay, so you got them both.
It's in Redbird Stadium.
Oh yeah, that's right, and that it's not the house that Spack built, but he's still the guy that's running
the house that Spack renovated.
Yeah, and has done a very good job there as the Redbirds football coach. So you'll be doing that some throughout the fall, and we'll look forward to that coverage as well.
Just to let everyone know, I'm not just going there to stand on the field. East St. Louis is playing.
Yeah.
Mount Carmel from Chicago, Leontre Bradford and Jesse Watson are 2 Purdue commitments, and I was going to go to East St. Louis. Fortunately, I checked the
location of the game.
Well, I looked deeper into the schedule and actually found out where I was supposed to go, and turns out it's 90 minutes closer. So good for us. So I'll be doing that. I'll be trying to get as many high school games as I can on Friday nights. This being a Saturday, obviously, but we'll have some stuff on our site next week about Leontre Bradford and Jesse Watson from a program that I'd imagine Purdue is going to be very active recruiting. One of the better programs in the country, East St. Louis. Corey Patterson, Purdue's wide receivers coach, used to be the head coach there. Illinois hired him away to its staff. Purdue hired him from Illinois. He's got very deep connections there, and I'd imagine Purdue is going to leverage those quite a bit in recruiting over the years. So be interesting to see how they play and all that stuff. So stay tuned to our site. Yep.
Stay tuned to the site, and obviously game week coverage as well. A lot going on next week as Purdue takes on Fresno State to open the season. All right, I'm going to let, since you started this thing, you get to close it out. It's all you.
All right, thanks everybody, and thank you again to the Purdue Union Club Hotel for your support. If you're listening to this on YouTube, give us a like, give us a whatever. If you're listening to this on your favorite podcast platform, whatever that might be, 5-star review. If you have feelings that are anything less than 5-star, let's just keep it to ourselves. But we would appreciate the reviews. We would appreciate you checking out GoldandBlack.com. Sign up now. You won't be sorry. Trust us, you won't be sorry. So if you care enough to be listening to these podcasts, chances are you care enough to value the things that are going to be on our site every day, all year long. So just a cheap little plug there.
And an important plug, and some specials still going on too. There are some, $1 a month specials for right now as well, and a monthly if you're interested too. So
I didn't even know that. So
yeah,
if you want to expand on that,
we're trying to attract subscribers. It's still the game here.
Yep.
Yeah, we are, but and Brian and Tom's work has a lot to do with that happening. So,
all right,
are we done?
Everybody.
All right, thanks all.
That was
have a great weekend.
I really stuck the landing on that, didn't I?
You did. It was outstanding.
That was a 5-star finish. That was
you bet.
Closing strong. All right. Thank you, Alan. Thank you to the departed Tom Dienhart as always, and we will talk to you guys again sometime down the road. Thanks, everybody.